Round 8 saw us witness the best game of the 2025 season, at least so far. In a round that started very slowly, it built each game with a Saturday night thriller the clear highlight. Like always, there were a handful of teams whose stock rose and a handful that dropped as we finished off the first third of the home and away season. But we have to focus on the marquee game of the round and maybe the season. Milestone man Jack Crisp, who broke Jim Stein's consecutive games record, ended up with the ball in his hand to win the game. It was a big kick with lots of fatigue, but it was never online. It was a pivotal win for Geelong in the end. We're now 5-3, but without Tom Stewart, Jack Henry, and then Reece Stanley, who was subbed early on, it makes the win even more impressive. It was a classic game between two very good sides where the in-game momentum shifts were apparent. Halfway through the third quarter, it was a question of Collingwood by how much, but some inaccurate kicking, especially early in the fourth, gave enough of a sniff to Geelong. Then, enter Patrick Dangerfield. 13 disposals, 8 ground ball gets, and a goal in the last quarter alone. It was all done in the forward half of the ground and with plenty of force. He also had some help from some of his teammates. Bailey Smith continues on his red-hot form, toppling 30 disposals again, and O'Sheen Mullen held Nick Dacos to just 3 disposals in the last quarter after he gathered 25 through 3. Even with all this, the Pies still almost stole it in a fairy tale fashion. Both sides will come out of the game feeling like they are two of the best teams, and everyone watching would have to agree. It looked like a classic preliminary final type of game and lived up to the anticipation. Another layer of events was what Bailey Smith said after in his post-game interview. He took a small shot at his former club, in which Marcus Bonampelli responded the morning after, and another small jab back. Round 11 is the meeting point between Geelong and the Western Bulldogs, and even though it's a few weeks out, the anticipation is already building. The underlying theme of the round was the advantage numerous teams got from playing at their home grounds. No one benefited from this more than the Western Bulldogs. They have now won 9 of their past 11 in Ballarat, and the 2 losses to Adelaide and the Giants came by a total of just 6 points. They are beginning to master the often windy conditions in Ballarat. After a 0-11 clearance advantage for Port Adelaide, mainly through superstar Zach Butters, that was flipped, and for the remaining 3 quarters and a half, the Bulldogs once again dominated stoppage, winning 49-24. It is their weapon and point of difference. With their control around the ball, they played express in the wind, and against it, used their handball chains and chip kicked the ball, best seen in the third quarter, where they piled on 7 goals. Ruckman Tim English had one of the best games of his career with 27 disposals and 3 goals, and he's been hitting some serious form in the past month. A 90-point win continues on their red-hot form, and they are gelling incredibly well across the field. The Adelaide Crows weren't too far behind them. A 60-point win over Carlton, and many of the same principles applied. They beat the Blues 16-6 at centre clearance, which gave them field position, and captain Jordan Dawson kicked 3 goals, looking so dangerous when he was inside 50. The Crows are now 4-1 at the Adelaide Oval, and it's going to be incredibly hard for any away opponents to give them trouble. They just score so heavily at home, and that Adelaide crowd gives them so much energy, as we saw on Saturday afternoon. The showdown is next up, and we normally know what the power serves up after a bad loss, so expect another thriller, despite the round 8 form of both of the South Australian clubs. And then there is St Kilda and Sydney. The Saints surprisingly won the midfield battle, shutting down Caleb Sarong and Andrew Brayshaw, while Jack McRae racked up another 38 disposals and 13 clearances. It was a reminder of how good the Saints are at their best, and despite down form against 2 good teams in the past 2 weeks, they still have plenty to offer in 2025. When they can get you on a stranglehold and shut off ball movement, there aren't many harder teams to play against. And boy, Sydney needed that one. 3-5 and just hanging in there with their serious injury list. Slowly Chad Warner, who won the best on ground medal, and Isaac Heaney are building into the season, and when they get up and running, it's hard to stop their slice through the middle of the field, as noted by Adam Kingsley. If Sydney can stay around equal on the ledger and get troops back, you just never know. But both of these winners takes us into the round's highlight losers. At the top of the list is Fremantle. It's not all doom and gloom at 4-4, but it was a rough performance at Marvel. As good as the Saints were, Fremantle might have had their worst game in 2 or 3 years. Brayshaw and Sarong combined for just 33 disposals, getting slapped at clearance, and that compounded with no ability to put speed on the ball and move it. Throw in a hamstring for Hayden Young, and the midfield loses an important and unique piece that can help them drive the ball forward. Again, it's not a disaster despite this media rev up, and getting Collingwood at home on a 5-day break is very winnable. If they do lose that, then it might be time to get a little edgy, and they wouldn't want to put in another poor primetime performance. The Giants have now lost 3 in a row and have big problems on field. They can't score. 34, 81 and 73 points in their past 3 games, despite most of their inside 50 weapons available. Now injuries are creeping in, Josh Kelly the latest one, but they have been a touch off for a while. The Orange Tsunami can't get up and running, and without a 5 or 6 goal effort from Jesse Hogan, that scoring can't be made up right now. Jake Stringer has been a flop to this point, despite kicking 3 late goals, and the small forward fleet isn't as threatening as they were in the back end of 2024. Like Fremantle, it's far from panic stations, and a trip to Geelong, where the Giants have won the last 4 times, gives an opportunity to get back on track. And the last game of the round was the Q Clash. Despite a 17-point margin, it was never that close, and the game was up for grabs in the middle 2 quarters. Brisbane just looked so powerful and flexed in classic Big Brother fashion. They beat up the Suns around the ball, Josh Dunkley limiting Matt Rowell to 16 touches the highlight, and the outside class of the Ashcroft boys and McCluggage was eye-catching. It was slightly disappointing by Gold Coast, but this Brisbane team is humming. Also, I think Will Ashcroft, who won the Marcus Ashcroft medal, is the first son to win a medal named after his father, and that capped off a special Sunday night for the football club.